Hello watch enthusiasts, this is OJ Whatley coming to you live from What You Want. I'm here with a very exciting and very interesting Radiomir Panerai to talk to you about today. But before we begin, I just wanted to remind you, if you like our videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, What You Want Inc., to receive updates for our most recently posted videos. As well, you can view this watch and our entire inventory of watches by going to our website, www.whatyouwant.com. And now, I'm here to talk to you about the Panerai Radiomir PAM 449, the S.L.C. Radiomir 3 days. So this watch was released for SIHH 2011 for the O series. This watch was released as a special edition in tribute to a very special watch which really marks a milestone in the Panerai history. So the PAM 449 is a faithful reproduction of the original 1936 Radiomir reference 2533, which in fact was a Rolex watch with wire lugs affixed to it so you could attach a strap to it, that was made as a special prototype for the Royal Italian Navy. At that time, Panerai was functioning as a mil-spec or military specification sort of company, outfitting special force by consignment and commission for special operations. And so the Royal Italian Navy came to Panerai and said, we're looking for a watch that can be used in underwater tactical situation, something that is going to glow in the dark, something that is going to be stable, because back then for something to glow in the dark it was radioactive, and if it was radioactive it was pretty much unstable, unpredictable, or unreliable, and something that would obviously withstand the rigors of underwater tactical combat. And so Panerai's solution was to buy the cases and the watches and the movements directly from Rolex and then implement those dials with their proprietary luminous technologies. And so the result was the 2533 Radiomir Panerai. This is a what we call S.L.C. or minimalist dial. It's a sandwich dial. So what you have is you have the holes and the double bars and sticks for the hour markers cut out in the top dial, and then underneath that dial you have a luminous disc. Now in this case, that luminous disc is tinted brown to give the watch a vintage look or a vintage patina so that it looks aged like an aging tritium. But in fact it's superluminova and glows like a flashlight when charged. But the effect is that the luminous glows out from the cutout stenciled markers from the dots and the bars for the hour markers. Additionally, what's really cool about this watch is it features blued steel hands, which is exactly what was outfitted on the original 2533 1936 Radiomir. Those blued steel hands are very subtle, although when you catch them in the light, they glow, they reflect a beautiful metallic blue, which is a nice contrast to that matte black dial and that vintage look. You know, that blued steel I happen to absolutely just have fallen in love with. And again, it's a very subtle aesthetic, but once you realize it, you know, it's unmistakable. And especially in the light, when that blue catches the light and reflects off, it's just a really nice effect. So as a PAM 449, this is a special edition, meaning it was made for only one production year. Panerai reserves the right never to make this watch again. In other words, the PAM 449 will only be made as an O series in a number of only 750 pieces ever produced, and never not a single more. Also, this watch features an original Plexiglas Crystal, which is fashioned to give it an aesthetic virtually identical to the original 2533 crystal. Again, this is a faithful reproduction, and if you had the wherewithal to acquire that 2533, of which I think there's only one known example, what you would find is an absolute striking similarity. I mean, almost a dead ringer, with the exception of that this watch does not feature the Rolex movement. This watch features the 3-day power reserve movement. Other than the movement, I think that you'll find these watches are almost dead ringers for one another. They each feature the oversized winding crown that is traditional signature of the Radiomir, as well as, you know, the wire lugs. And so, you know, originally this watch was bought from Rolex as a pocket watch, and then they essentially just welded or soldered onto it wire lugs so that you could attach the straps. I mean, that's literally the original DNA of this watch and the original Radiomir wristwatches. That the reason they were so big was not because Panerai knew big watches were going to be big, but they wanted big watches that were easily legible, and moreover, you know, the only things that were available were pocket watches, and pocket watches were traditionally larger than regular wristwatches, which were tiny little watches. So they wanted something that was legible, but they wanted something that was durable, and they came up with this cushion-shaped case from Rolex. Again, the 2533 signifies a relationship shared by Panerai and Rolex that was never before or never again duplicated. It was a very unique relationship, and it's actually one of the mysteries of Rolex, of how this relationship started, and the very fact that Panerai was able to buy entire cases, movements, and dials from Rolex, and then do whatever they wanted to those watches, essentially on a carte blanche basis, is really one of probably the most amazing details in the history of Panerai and Rolex. And of course, Rolex, as private as it is, has never really revealed the extent of the relationship, how it happened, or what it really looked like. So this is one of those neat watches that really commemorates and is a tribute to that original watch. Additional features of this watch, if you look really closely at 12 o'clock, what you'll see is S.L.C engraved into the rehaut. S.L.C stands for Siloso Loro Corso, which essentially translates to slow-moving torpedo. The slow-moving torpedo was also known as the Black Seal vehicle. So essentially it was a torpedo that had operational controls to it that would allow two divers to sit on top of that torpedo that they would take from a ship 5-10 miles off the coast. They would take that torpedo underwater using scuba tanks. At the time, they weren't scuba, they were rebreather equipment, essentially that was created by Panerai. They were outfitted with watches, with depth gauges, and with compasses that were also provided to them by Panerai. And then typically about a half mile before they got to their target, which was usually an enemy ship sitting in harbor, they would abandon the torpedo, make sure the torpedo was steering towards a ship, and then swim back to their mother ship. In fact, there were some very significant battles and ships that were sunk using this kind of underwater tactical technology and the S.L.C, the slow-moving torpedo. So it is very much a storied vehicle in the annals of naval warfare, and Panerai as the official instruments worn by these, you know, Black Seal special operative guys are very storied as well. Additionally, on this watch, in between the lugs at 6 o'clock is stamped vintage, and in between the lugs at 12 o'clock is stamped PAM 449. This is one of the first times you've seen the PAM reference number stamped into the watch. Usually it's just given as a BB number and an OP number. So in this case, you have your BB number on the ring on the case back. That ring bears the Brevettato signature, which was a Swiss, you know, I'm not exactly sure about the Brevettato, but I know that Brevettato was stamped on some of the original Rolex crowns, and I know that it was stamped on some of the original vintage Panerais. So this is stamped Brevettato on the ring. As well, on each corner, you have the edition number, for example, on this piece. It's out of 750 pieces. You have the depth resistance water resistance rating, which is 1,000 meter in this one. And then you have the OP number up here, which is OP, I think it's 6,800. And so you have all the details of the watch. Again, this watch is outfitted with the P3000 3-day power reserve. It's a manual winding movement and a really beautiful movement. This is their in-house movement made in Nucatel, and it's outfitted in a number of their Radiomir 1940 and Radiomir watches. So you'll see it in a lot of their watches moving forward. It is their in-house movement and their in-house manual wind. And in fact, this movement actually features a date indication which they choose to obscure in the majority of the models. In a couple of the models, the date is actually visible. So there you have it. This is the PAM 449 S.L.C Radiomir tribute to the original Rolex 2533 Panerai Radiomir from 1936. I hope you've enjoyed this video review. As always, If you like our videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, What You Want Inc. And make sure to check out our website, www.whatyouwant.com. So thank you so very much for your time today. And as always, wear your watches in the best of health. This is OJ Whatley for What You Want, signing off. Have a great day.